started out in radio in the 70s. It needs to be done the right way. And you go listen to a lot of these talk shows, they're more interested in basically putting down their guest on their show.
Exactly.
And people don't realize it. You know, you listen to all these shows, and the guests are actually getting put down, and they don't even realize it. Hopefully they realize it after they've done the show. But I let my guests tell their story. I don't try to take them apart, but I am very good at getting them to talk. So I do get a lot of information out of them without them realizing it. And that's the whole point. It's then up to you, the listener, to make that decision if that is a true story or not. You know, but there's so many things out there in the paranormal, it need to get out there. You know, and you can't do it with a microphone on a kitchen table. I'm sorry. It can't happen.
Yeah. No, it seems like everyone that we talk to seems to have a story. And whether it's a story from when they were young and they can't explain some missing time, whether they lived in a house they believe was haunted, or they've seen some cryptid animal or form that they can't explain. There's always a story, it seems, that everyone has that they, if they're comfortable enough with the interviewer like they are with you, they will tell their stories. And then, of course, you get to prod a little bit, kind of ask the follow-up questions, and really get down to brass tacks on what they've seen and what their experience has been. And the listening audience out there, I believe, can really relate to many of those stories that they hear. They've got their own, I'm sure, and that's what I love to do, is share those just like yourself.
Well, there's so many different things, you know, I don't want to make it all about Gary tonight, but, you know, back in the, mid-90s to about 2000-something, I ran, you know, these camera stores. One of them was in Tacoma, in a building that was built in the 1870s, downtown on Pacific Avenue. And originally, it was a hotel that I found out. You know, well, I'll go into it. It was originally a hotel. In the basement, there was a bar. Now, in Tacoma, it's right off the bay, so the ships would come in, you know, the merchants would come in, you know, military come in occasionally, and the sailors would go, you know, at that time, you know, downtown Tacoma was a very busy, you know, thing, which it is no longer. And so the whole story is that the hotel was a brothel, and I found that out by going through the archives. But I would have employees that would work for me, and we used the basement, which was used, you know, as a bar for many years, for storage, you know, for the two other stores in our store. And, you know, these employees would come up there and say, hey, something strange is going on. It's haunted. You know, I look at them, you know, like, being the big shot, I didn't go down the basement, nevertheless, I absolutely had to. So I started thinking, when the first guy told me that, I go to myself and I tell one of the other guys, I said, I think this guy's crazy. But then all of a sudden, the next guy tells me the same thing. This went on for like 13, 14 years of people, you know, and you go through camera salesmen really fast. I hate to say it. They burn out. At least they did in that time frame. So it was a lot of salesmen. A lot of them was an ex-Navy SEAL that was a salesman for me. You know, a macho guy. One guy was a chief bosun mate on submarines. And they all would get to the point where they wouldn't go down the basement. They said things would move, or, you know, this weird things was happening. Again, I didn't believe them, you know. And then one day, all of a sudden I went down there, and two occasions. One, I smelled lilac really strong, and it got ice cold. I walked another step forward. I didn't smell nothing. I walked back. I didn't smell nothing. I go, okay, that's weird. If anything, it should be the sewer, correct? Down in the basement, and actually went under Pacific Avenue a little ways, so there's sewer pipes all around there. It wasn't the sewer. Then, you know, a few weeks later, you know, I was down there again, and somebody tapped me on the shoulder where it hurt. I turned around. There was nobody there. Hey, I started believing there's some strange things out there I can't account for what they are. So that's really got my eyes and my mind open to the paranormal.
Yeah, those little experiences in your life will at least open your eyes to other things that are out there that we don't know about. And, of course, you're typically reticent to say anything to someone, like your employees were, I'm sure. But, eventually you talk to folks who have similar experiences, and you kind of develop a little camaraderie out there. And I believe that the camaraderie of the paranormal is just burgeoning at this point. People, I think, are deciding that the time, and well, let's face it, the baby boomers on this planet are getting older, and they're gone through a whole lot of different things in their lifetime. And at this point, I think they're trying to decide what they want to do with the remaining golden years they have, and they're not so reticent to talk about their strange experiences anymore.
Well, again, you have to understand the paranormal has opened up in the last few years like it never has before. I mean, let's face it, 5 years ago, if you were to start saying, hey, I saw a UFO, you'd be labeled as a crackpot. And or going back 10 years ago or 15 years ago. Well, things have changed. Now you can sit there and say, well, I saw a UFO. Well, people probably will ask you questions and not doubt that you've seen one or not. It's still a little bit iffy, I hate to say it, on Bigfoot, okay? I have to be honest on that. But I think the paranormal has opened up so much now where you're not labeled as a nut or a fruitcake if you saw a ghost or you heard a weird sound or you've had an encounter. Again, like Whitney, being involved with aliens. And again, like Timothy last night. And some of these guests I've had on, it tells me that they are seeing, some strange things that has happened in their life. And I do think that some people are more susceptible to picking up the paranormal than others because I think their mind is more open. They're not all cluttered up with denial.
I believe you're right. I believe there are people that are more intuitive and potentially open more to these kinds of anomalous activity. It's like anything else. There's like the old 80-20 rule. There's 80% of the folks are just sheeples out there. They're not going to be really forceful enough to go and talk about anything. But the 20% out there are kind of becoming, I think that percentage is becoming larger and larger every day when people are waking up and deciding that they want to talk about what's going on in their lives. And it's more meaningful to live that way, I believe.
Oh, yeah. Now, I got people asking what time our show is on. Normally, I am on Monday to Friday from 8 to 11. I'm not feeling good tonight, so I'm playing it by ear, probably another 20 minutes tonight. But I'm on normally from 8 to 11, Monday through Friday. And then Kevin, the paranormal lawyer, which he is actually a licensed lawyer in Washington State, has a talk show in the paranormal. He's on from 7 to 9 on Sundays. And then we got Kevin Beagle, who's on 7 to 10 on Saturdays. So that lets you know about our hours. No, we're not a podcast. We're a live show. So what I'm saying right now, you're hearing maybe a 15-second delay because I got a kill button here. But everything we're saying is being broadcast. Now, when we're done, it immediately goes up on all the apps through my server on like Spreaker Radio. It goes on to iTunes, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and all these other apps. I mean, a ton of apps. And they go up as a replay. So if you missed a show, you can go back and click on and listen to it. Now, what's it going to cost you? Now, I have a real beef on a couple talk shows out there that make you join a club to play their replays. I feel, because my background in radio is so many years of it, I think radio should be free. Okay? It's up to me to pay the light bill, not you. So I feel that you shouldn't have to join any type of club or pay a couple dollars a month of your hard-earned money to to listen to any of my shows or Michael's shows or Kevin's shows. They're free. You can go onto our website at www.nightdreamstalkradio and just click onto, hey, if you need something to fall asleep at night, guarantee, click on one of my shows, sit back there with a nice, comfortable pillow. 10 minutes later, you'll be sound asleep.
And very well informed, by the way.
Oh, yeah, you know what? You will wake up. Seriously? You will wake up, and you know what? You're going to have all these thoughts in your brain you didn't have before. Now, a couple of people ask me how I know so much in the paranormal, too. I'm going to tell you I cheat, okay? For the last, since 1997, okay, I listened to Art Bell every single episode. I didn't miss, if I missed a live one, I had it recorded at the start. And then even now, you know what I do when I go to bed at night? I turn it on to the archives of Art Bell, and I listen to all these shows. And, it just keeps my mind going and fresh for an old fart like me.
Oh, that is wonderful, Gary. I mean, some of the best late-night talk radio I've ever heard was listening to Art Bell until 2 in the morning. And the Ballad of Mel's Hole, the UFOs, the abduction stories, all those things just were fascinating to me. And obviously, I decided that I needed to get more further into this subject as well. And also, we need to thank all of those folks out there, potentially in the even Eastern Bloc countries that are listening to us out there. And Europe and the UK and all those different places that people are listening in. I really appreciate that, and you are to be commended for having such a worldwide audience.
Oh, yeah. Hey, if people are wondering if I misspelled real quick, I'm trying to talk, type, and think at the same time, which at my age is hard. I am so shocked that out of the UK, now I got some guests coming up here in the next week or two that are out of the UK. And I've had other guests out of the UK, and they're really cool. But you know what? Their civilization goes back so much farther than ours. So it's so more rich into the paranormal and even more accepted in the UK than it even is here. And, I'm just totally overwhelmed of all the emails I get from the UK. I mean, it's just like so many. Yes,
exactly, and they seem to be more up on the subject regarding even just the public concerned out there as well. Same thing with the Russian listeners, the Eastern Bloc as well. It seems to be discussed more in the public venues and newspapers even than it does here in the United States. But I think we're slowly but surely catching up to the idea that these things need to be talked about in the public venues.
Oh, yeah. And I got a guess right now. We're working on booking, we're trying to work out the phone way to do it the right way to have him on. But he's out of the UK. He was abducted, kind of the same type of scenario as Timothy, only a lot more deeper and more into the darkness than what Timothy, was talking about. And if we get him on, it's going to be really cool. Plus, he was a government official out of the UK that actually was, how can I say it, trying to debunk UFOs, and then he got abducted himself.
Oh, that's the kind of guest I want to listen to. That sounds like a fascinating story.
Oh, yeah. And, that's what we're working on right now. And I've been, chatting with him almost every day for the last couple of weeks. So I think it's going to happen. I think it's going to be a real rich conversation about abductions and stuff like that. And what a foreign government, what their idea is on UFOs. He claims that, they supposedly closed the department down on the UK on UFOs, but he said that's not the story, that it's still going on under another project name. So,
yes, I'll bet. When this Luis Elizondo came out public in December, and confirmed that the United States military had a program that they were studying unidentified flying objects